Maine Knows How is made possible by you and by these community-minded sponsors. Modern Woodman of America, a member-owned fraternal financial services organization. Together with our members, we've been touching lives and securing futures since 1883. True Enterprises, a local solar installation team with over a decade of experience delivering custom energy solutions across Maine. Sebasticook Valley Federal Credit Union, supporting our local community with valuable services, a friendly atmosphere, and caring employees. J.W. Parks Golf Course, a 9-hole facility with a full-service golf shop and driving range. Pine Grove Programs, supporting veterans, first responders, and law enforcement by providing free outdoor opportunities for those who serve and their families. Moosehead Trail Trading Post, offering quality hunting and fishing gear with expert advice for your budget and outdoor needs. And by Digital Spirit Media, delivering over 30 years of technical expertise in media and event production. Maine Knows How.
Happy New Year! Welcome to January edition of Maine Knows How. Here with my two good friends,
Good to
Bob
see
and
you.
Wyatt. How are you?
Very good.
Good, good.
Yep.
Bob?
Very nice. We had a great hunting season,
Yep.
bird season. And now we're looking forward to going coyote hunting.
Ooh, the coyote.
Yeah. Dogs are ready.
Yeah.
Dogs
Ah,
are howling.
yeah. So you're getting ready for the rabbits or
Yeah.
the hares, whatever you sportsmen call that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And ice fishing.
And ice fishing. We got an ice fishing derby
We got
coming.
the derby coming.
Yeah.
The 31st.
Yep. For 31st.
January.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. We have a great community turnout for this, and we have hundreds usually out there fishing. And
It's always a fun time.
it is.
It's a lot of fun.
Sometimes it's cold, and sometimes it's really cold.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's always some level,
But it's cold.
but it's a good time.
But it's a good time, and it's wonderful to see the young families out there fishing and the kids, and when they're holding up that trout and it's frozen solid.
Yeah.
But they've got a smile.
Yeah.
They got a smile on their face, like I caught this, and I'm going to eat it tonight.
Yeah.
So it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got some activities coming up. Like you said, the coyotes are in full swing.
Yeah. Yeah. And we started collecting deer parts, in late November. Here we go with that again.
Think we
Yes.
can leave some in your garage.
So, my
We need some more
garage.
space.
And it's a big year for deer too.
It
It's
is
been a big year.
very good.
I've heard the taxidermists are getting big deer this year.
Yeah.
A couple good mild winters for them, and
Yep.
they're turning out. So you must have a lot of good deer parts.
We have a lot of good deer stories too.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Bob. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Looking to save on utility costs? True Enterprises is a local solar installation team with over a decade of experience delivering custom energy solutions across Maine. Whether you're powering a home, business, or large-scale project, True handles everything from design and installation to long-term support. They make the process simple and the results reliable. Call today for a free estimate or visit.
Welcome back to January edition of Maine Knows How. Today we have a special guest, Gerry Lavigne. He's been with us before. He also was, as you may recall, 30 years with Maine Fish and Wildlife, and he's been a consultant for SAM for the past 20 years or so. Gerry has spent an awful lot of time in Maine woods.
Yeah.
His knowledge and experience have spanned 50 plus years. And he has actually seen the changes that have occurred in our forests, in our land over that period of time. So with that, welcome, Gerry. And
Thank you. Great to be here.
It's
Yeah,
great
good
to
to see you
have
again.
you. And, I'll just take us back a few minutes when we were just chatting. We were talking about the first coyote you ever saw in Maine.
Well, here we are in the Bingham area, okay, right across the river from the dam, and about 15 miles from here, the Long Falls Dam on the Dead River flows down and eventually into the Kennebec at the Forks. And in 1972, I began my graduate research at UMaine for my master's degree, and I was studying, the topic was studying the impact of snowmobiling on wintering deer. But in the process, I got to live in the woods 3 weeks at a time, and then come out, and then this occurred from October until May, doing various things. And one of the things we were talking about in 1972, I was in the woods and walking to one of my research locations. It was May, and I felt like I was being watched, and I turned around and there was a coyote. Now, I'm from upstate New York, and they didn't have coyotes back then. And in fact, Maine was only just beginning to get a viable population of coyotes, especially in this western part of the state.
So they were coming east? Is that the idea?
Well, what they had done, coyotes migrated here along the bottom of the Great Lakes from the west, and ended up occurring first in Ontario, Quebec, Minnesota, and then Maine had the honor of hosting this animal, and eventually they took over the entire Northeast, and they went right to Nova Scotia, and then in time they boomeranged down the Appalachians and the Southeast. Now it was Pennsylvania and North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia's turn.
Just took the Appalachian Trail south.
Yeah, yeah. So coyotes were new way back then when I was just starting out, and that coyote that I saw probably had never seen a human before, because I was 20 miles in the woods from the nearest residence, the permanent residence, and that may not have ever seen a human before. And of course, I didn't see a coyote. So I just kept walking, no gun.
You knew immediately.
No need for a gun, as it turned out. And eventually, this critter parted ways with me, and I continued my work.
Now, would you consider the coyotes coming into Maine to be similar or the same thing as putting a pike in a trout pond? What I mean,
that's a loaded question.
It is. I mean, do you look at it as being some sort of invasion in a negative sense, or
yeah.
or am I talking more about the pike being the
pike? Yeah, pike have more value. All right.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you for all the pike fishermen who come to Maine to catch the big pike. Please come.
One of the things that was obvious, like a set of dominoes, all across the Northeast here, when the coyote arrived in Quebec in good numbers in the early 70s. They hunted deer either sex like we did, no regulation. You get your deer, buck or doe, that's it.
Right.
And all of a sudden, Quebec realized they cannot sustain their doe population. And so they began to do some research, and coyote predation was a major factor. You'd think all the rest of us in the Northeast would learn our lesson? No. Maine, by the late 70s, in addition to the budworm problem, Maine got coyotes in their now normal densities by the late 70s, and by the early 80s, when I was a deer biologist for Maine, we were hunting deer of either sex, and we couldn't sustain the population. And so we had to come up with some system to regulate the harvest of does to make up for the does and fawns that are taken by coyotes.
And this is directly related to the coyotes.
Yeah.
There no other.
New Brunswick's problem with doe regulation occurred about 5 years after us. You know, they were killing way more deer than we were at the time, and then they weren't. Down it goes. Nova Scotia was the last one to realize that, yeah, this predator reduces allowable deer harvest. And Nova Scotia population didn't plummet until the late 80s, early 90s. So it was everything in a sequence for 25 years as coyotes came into the state or province and built up to levels where they can have an impact on ungulates. Now this coyote had, in its trip across the Great Lakes area, they apparently interbred with the remnant wolf population that occurred there at that time. And about 10-12% of our coyote genes are wolf genes. So we have a critter that's larger than the western coyote, tends to be a pack former, and they stay in packs longer during the course of the year. The pack consists of the family group of the year at that time, and wolves will sometimes have 2 or 3-year-old wolves with them. But that one little difference. But because they're pack animals, they're more proficient at taking large prey like white-tailed deer. And for a long time, state fish and wildlife departments officially said, no, they don't have an impact. They don't have an impact. You know, until we had to actually do the research to prove it to them. And even today, some elements of fish and wildlife departments still minimize the possibility that coyotes can actually affect the size of a deer population and hence affect the harvest for people.
I mean, you've seen the impact in the woods, not only of the deer population, but I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Just seeing bones on the ground and
a year after this story is pretty neat. A year after, on the same study in the same area, at the end of May, I remember today, it was May 30th. I was canoeing down to Deadwater to get to the cabin at Grand Falls, and I heard a barking sound. So just like a German Shepherd, only not as bassy. Bark, 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 bark. And the whole area in there was cut over with little openings. And you've probably tried to hunt some of those, and they're hard to get into. So I beached the canoe and I went in. And I got about halfway to where ultimately the barking was, and the barking stopped. And I'm in a little opening, and all of a sudden, this coyote head pokes through about 25, 30 feet from me. And I stood stock still. He disappeared and then went back to barking. That allowed me to get a beeline on where it was. It wasn't much further. And so I go crashing into there, and I jump. I never saw the coyote again, but I jumped the doe. And at the foot of an old stump, there was the remains of a fawn. The fawn had just been born, and all there was the hindquarters and the head of that fawn. And behind the head, right there, were 2 fang marks. What I pieced together from that was does are protective of their offspring. And that coyote killed that newborn fawn, but she continued to try to defend it, and the coyote was barking at the doe. And so I took the head and the hindquarters with me, and that's the first instance we have in Maine, and this is 1973 now, verifying that coyotes do target young of the year. I'm here to tell you, though, I'm kind of resourceful, and I wasn't making much money as a grad student. I ate those hindquarters. And they were the size of large chicken legs.
Oh my word!
And white as veal.
Yeah.
And I barbecued them on the fire. They're great. They were great.
See, back then, the woods were much bigger than they are now. And things happened, and nobody's seen it. Because
So what do
there
you
was,
mean by that? The woods
they,
were
they
much
weren't
bigger?
cut. Now they cut 40 acres in a week.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
whole
Yeah.
wood crew would cut 40 acres the whole winter. And there wasn't roads everywhere. So you could not see the effect of the coyotes coming here. See? And then they just kept coming. And
Yeah, there were-
we used to have
That whole
2 deer
country.
seasons.
Yeah.
And when I started in 70s, hunting up north because it was a week earlier, you'd see dog tracks following deer tracks. And we'd say, are these wild dogs? Because we didn't know about coyotes back then. See? And then you had another season down south a week, and you didn't have those dogs.
No kidding.
Yep. So it's
Now, one of the things I had to do as a grad student on that study, besides riding a snowmobile way more than I wanted to, but boy, weren't they souped up back then? Any land?
Yeah.
Top speed of 25.
right. Maybe. Yeah.
It still beat walking.
Yeah.
One of the things that I had to do was estimate the size of the deer population in that yard, and it was the Hayden Brook deer yard.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
Hayden
Yep.
Brook,
Yep.
and it matches up with Spencer Brook
Right.
on the other side, and had to estimate population size, but also try to get an estimate of mortality rate over. I did this for 3 years, and then as a biologist working for the department, I continued it for 10 more years on that one site, so we got a good database. When I first began early on, and prior to there was another grad student who started in '68, but early on, I saw more bobcat kills in that deer yard, and you can tell a difference, than coyote kills. The coyotes had not gotten proficient and really learned their trade until later in the '70s. And you could see that year by year, the proportion of kills in that yard that were coyote versus bobcat versus starvation. Starvation hardly ever occurs. And,
Right.
And during the course of this other study I did, maybe 5% of the herd during a 10-year period actually starved in the winter. The rest was all predation. So that's important.
But you mentioned there was a deer yard, and could you just describe what you mean by that and
Okay,
the
along-
phenomenon and
Sure.
where it is and
Yeah.
why it's there?
Along, this is hill country where Hurricane Mountain kind of slopes down into Dead River, into that valley. And the very the lowest part along the Dead River is a wide area of spruce and fir forest, which at the time was uncut or almost uncut. And Bob mentioned the way people were logging back then in the 60s and 50s and earlier. There were still sluices on the cliffs going down to the river where horse teams would bring logs, and these wooden raceways that they'd sluice them down into
No
the fast
kidding.
water of the Dead River. But anyway, the Hayden Brook deer yard at that time varied depending on the amount of snow from 500 acres to 2,500 acres. When a crust would form on the snow and the deer could get around really well, they'd go up in the hardwoods and eat things on the brush on the floor of the hardwoods. But when they were bottled up down into that one corridor of mature spruce and fir forest, that was their safety area, their yard. And the snow is less than half deep as it is in hardwoods under that conifer forest. So that energetically, deer spend a lot less energy going from point A to point B, especially on their trails in a deer yard. If you cut all that and they've got snow up to their bellies, they're dead. Predators are
Just gonna
mostly
get 'em.
coyotes now are going to literally wipe out a deer yard if it's over harvested.
It's just so they play that river. It's just a game for these deer to get away from these coyotes. They go across the river. A deer will go on the other side, shake off, and he's dry. A coyote goes across, he's frozen.
Yeah, and
His fur will just freeze right up, so he ain't going across. So them deer play that game.
one other thing, when I was a grad student, bobcat hunting was pretty popular. And I'm not sure if it was Gene's dogs or what, but
Arthur Thibodeau's.
one day I was in there, and it was February, I believe, and I heard a hound barking, and I was near the edge of the river anyway on my side, and I go to the edge, and at that point the banks are like 6 to 8 feet high. All right. There in the middle of the fast water of the river was a deer. On the other side was a bobcat hound. and mind you, this 20 miles in the woods,
Wow.
you know, no houses, so it had to be somebody's cat hound. Eventually the deer, I watched and watched for, I want to say, a half hour. And eventually I saw the deer get out and scramble up the bank on my side, and the thing bedded down along the major trail in the conifers, soaking wet on that side. Now the deer escaped the dog, and a coyote would do the same thing, stay on a bank and bark at him. But the next morning I came back, and it was below zero that night, and that deer was laying dead in its bed, untouched, thoroughly soaked. All its fur was soaked, and it could not regulate body temperature, 20 below zero. The dog never put a fang on that deer, and yet it killed that deer.
Yep.
So things like that happen in the woods with wild animals as well.
Yep.
So we were just fortunate to have Gerry there.
Yeah.
That was 20 miles back, no roads. Right? Then we had woods, we had wilderness. Now there's no wilderness. There's roads everywhere.
Yeah.
You can't get lost. Not really. I mean,
Well, you can if
but not
you don't
very,
have a map.
Yeah, if you don't have a map.
I got a story for that when it comes
All right,
to story
all right.
time, all right?
All right, you tell. Go ahead and tell that story.
No, there's one thing I want to stay with on coyotes,
Okay.
if I may.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hunters usually know what's going on in the woods sooner than biologists do. And I was as guilty as any of them when I was young for that fact. Hunters were telling us that they're not seeing any skippers anymore. No. Hunters were telling us that there are deer all over the woods dead. And so I got hired in 77 as a deer biologist. In 1978, I initiated a study in which we collected data from all the deer that we could find dead in the woods for a 10-year period. All right? And we would collect a tooth so we could tell the age of the deer. We would collect a femur bone, a leg bone, because that's a good index of whether the deer is starving, partially malnourished, or in good condition. And we were trained wardens and biologists to get a close estimate of what killed it. And coyote kills are pretty obvious. Because they dismember the entire carcass right away, what you've got is a rug of its hair on the ground, the paunch, which is not eaten, and the bones are scattered all over the place.
Is that because there's a pack of them all eating separately, or
And bobcat tend to feed, cover it up, and come back and feed later, and this type of thing. And of course, a deer that starves to death but has no indication of scavenging or predation would be listed as starvation loss. All right. The other thing with coyote kills is there's blood everywhere.
Really?
They don't kill. They ultimately kill it, but they may just hamstring it and start feeding on that hindquarter until the deer goes into shock and dies. Other coyotes get efficient enough to take it by the throat. Bobcat tend to suffocate a deer by knuckling onto it with its jaws. And in fact, rowling on, you see row marks on the back of the deer of where the coyote's hanging on when he first latched on, or the bobcat's hanging on and knuckling onto him. So we did this study. From 1978 to 1989, we collected 763 pieces of data, deer killed by coyotes. Now, at the time, the folklore tells us that predators only take the old, the sick, and the weak. All right, and so you would predictably see only deer that were just in rough condition and too old to get around. No. This study revealed that over half of the deer killed by coyote were in good physical condition and probably would have lived through the winter to go on to produce a harvestable deer or reproduce and produce fawns. So there's that. And then number two, no age class of deer was invulnerable to coyote predation. And the reason for both of those is that once the snow gets up to 2 feet and the deer are restricted to trails, it's easy to run them off the trail. And even a deer in excellent condition can get bogged down in snow and ultimately killed. So I concluded at that time, and you have to see it this way, that once our deer season ended at the end of muzzleloader season, the second deer season started, because deer and coyotes were directly competing for white-tailed deer. Because a high proportion of the deer taken in the wintertime were just as healthy as they were in the fall. So if you're only killing the old, the weak, and the sick, there's really no impact. They would have died anyway, all right? But when you're taking healthy deer, that reduces the population, reduces the ability to reproduce, to bounce back, and the whole works. And as I mentioned earlier with finding that fawn, other studies done around us and also in Maine have revealed that coyotes and bears target white-tailed deer in June and can have an impact. They can even in a mild winter, after a mild winter, if high predation occurs on fawns in June, you can put a stop to population growth right then and there, or even make it decline. So predation on young animals, like young of the year animals, is crucial. So the solution, if there is one, is to try to reduce the impact of coyotes by reducing their population size at the right time.
Well, we'd like to say a big thank you to Sebasticook Valley Credit Union. They've been a long-time sponsor of the program with our golf events. They're always there. They have a team. They sponsor a hole. They sponsor the Sportsman's Challenge, and they're really, really a true organizations for the people in central Maine. They're a credit union. They're all local credit union that's not owned by an operation someplace else in the world. And the people you deal with are people that live right in your community, and they lead with their hearts. They really are personal place to do business. So if anybody needs a credit union or a local bank, this would be a place that I would check out, because I can just tell you how good they are.
So do you have any like research on how much of an impact like us going in and harvesting those coyotes has on an area?
That's beginning to emerge, yeah. And there's one of the best things, pieces of information that we've got here in Maine now. There's a contest over right straight across the state from here in the east central part of the state, around Lincoln and Springfield. They've been holding a contest on coyotes during the winter for this will be their 17th year.
Wow.
And they killed, starting out, they killed less than 100 coyotes. The last 3 or 4 years, they're killing 200 coyotes in this contest. So we're not talking small numbers.
Right. We're talking big numbers here.
And this contest is kind of interesting because it's a private bounty, which the state frowns on, but the state should realize they should pay these guys because they're doing the state's work. Number one, all the participants put in, say, $20. Businesses kick in money and prizes, and every coyote that's killed, the hunter is paid whatever the kitty has. And most years it's between $20 and $25. That's an incentive for these coyote hunters to bring in every coyote they killed. And there's a prize for the biggest one, biggest male, biggest female, the most likely to succeed one, and a random one. And so because there's a random drawing, every coyote you kill gets entered. From a biological standpoint, every coyote you kill gets entered. From a biological standpoint, that's heaven, because I know that they're taking a complete sample of whatever coyotes are out there, and bringing them in for attention. That would be a great project for the Fish and Wildlife Department to have, to really study this. In my retirement, and as my work with Sam, I took it upon myself to get their data, establish a relationship with them, and look at it. Long story short, when over in this part of the state, and this is for an area that's like close to 1,000 square miles, there's a statistically reliable correlation between the number of coyotes these guys are tagging and putting into the contest and the number of deer that are registered at the tagging station, ground zero for this contest, the next fall. And they've gone from being less than 100 deer tagged to being 160 deer tagged consistently. And the more coyotes they took, the higher the following harvest was. And this occurred in spite of severe winters, easy winters. There was no good correlation between the previous winter, just the number of coyotes that are taken. So that tells me as a biologist that with a statistical correlation like that, we're onto something if we kill as many coyotes as we can from fall through spring, and do it in a concentrated area, and you'll have an impact.
Yeah.
That's just what we did here.
Yeah.
We did the same thing. We started off tagging 77 deer in Bingham for the whole season. Last year, 265 deer, just for harvesting the coyotes. But you know what I'm noticing now is really quite unique, is people are contracting me to hunt their coyotes on their private land. They say, well, I own this piece of property and I'm feeding these deer. I'll pay you so much to hunt every coyote here. And then another one, and another one, and another one. So people have been, you're going to find this going on all over shortly.
Oh,
So when they have this contest in the Lincolnville area,
Lincoln.
I'm sorry.
Right.
And you go down and you're able to look at the coyotes coming in. I mean, do you have an assessment on the health of the coyote population? I mean, is it flourishing? Is it really healthy?
Unfortunately, I don't, because I don't see them when they come in. I only have the weight records and the other. But I'm collecting that data myself. I'm a long-term coyote hunter, and I have people around me that I'm familiar with that I collect their data, and we collect weight from the coyotes we kill. And from March into early May, I examine every female coyote internally to see if it's producing pups or not. And so I'm getting my own data set. I'm operating in an area from just north of Old Town, Alton, LaGrange. I live in Orneville Township, Milo, and Brownville. Those towns all along Route 16 encompass about 250 square miles. In 2016, I started looking at all this stuff, and collectively, 6 or 8 of us have killed anywhere from 35 to 84 coyotes along that one corridor. Last year, one of the hunters I know, his second year with a thermal, he normally would kill 10 or 15 coyotes off his one farm, and now he killed 26 a year ago and 34 this year. So what would happen, you'd think at some point, if you kill that many coyotes in an area, the antis will tell you that they'll just reproduce harder and you'll have more coyotes. Well, I killed 32 2 years ago in the 3 sites I'm hunting, and for 2 years now I'm having trouble finding a coyote to kill.
Really?
Yeah. So you do put a damper on them. And when you take 84 coyotes out of 250 square miles, that's higher than the estimate of the population of coyotes in that area.
Right.
So what we're doing, we're creating what's called a population sink, where we kill the resident coyotes, and then over time, during the course of week by week, month by month, transient coyotes from who knows where
Are passing through.
And we're killing those. So we're having an impact not just on my farm or even my town, but it might be a whole chunk of District 18, which is where I live. So that kind of thing's going on.
Do coyotes have an impact on any other species? I mean, do they grab turkeys or rabbits? Or...
Oh, they love turkeys, but they're not having an impact on them.
Right.
As you can see.
Yeah, the turkeys are everywhere.
But they are
As a matter of fact, driving up today, I went past one farm in Smithfield, actually, the flats, and there was one farm out there had to have 36 or 40. I mean, and there were a couple big ones out there. I was just saying, this is not fair. A couple days, just to be able to look out there.
Here's an indication of how attractive a turkey is to a coyote. A lot of turkey hunters are out there calling, and they toll in coyotes instead of turkeys. And through Sam, we encourage those people to shoot that coyote, because when you kill a coyote which is pregnant or nursing pups, they whelp their pups in mid-April. So now in turkey season,
Right.
it's the low point of the coyote population, and the odds are if you kill a coyote in May, you're killing a male or a female that's tending pups in the den, and also it may be one of those rare stragglers as well that may be helping provide food for coyotes in a den. So spring is a great time of year for coyote control, and as good, if not better, than wintertime.
Except you have a shotgun and not a rifle.
Yeah. Well, but it works.
They'll still come in.
Yeah.
They'll come in that close.
Yep.
Wow.
They play havoc on my rabbit covers too.
Oh, do they really?
Oh yeah, they'll chase rabbits when off season. And
Will they just dig them?
no, they hunt them down. They don't bark like a beagle.
Right.
He just hunts them down by scent,
Yeah.
and he catches them little rabbits. So they eat all the time. You know, they're very efficient at making a living.
What they don't have an impact on is the mouse population.
Yeah.
And when I go to a public hearing where they're trying to reduce the coyote season, like they've done the last 2 sessions, or eliminate contests, like they did this past winter, our anti-friends will say, oh, they help regulate the mouse population. You take an animal almost that height as a height of this dog and maybe 30 pounds and try to feed it only mice. That's like us trying to live on
Popcorn.
yeah, but only a handful of popcorn. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Energetically, calorically, it doesn't add up.
Right.
And that's why an animal this size tends toward larger prey, like snowshoe hare at the minimum, woodchucks, porcupines, and then right on up through to deer.
Yep. Yeah, if you're a grouse hunter, they're eating your little grouse before
Oh yeah.
they're on the hunt.
Yeah, and I've found on my own property the remnants of turkeys that have been killed that suggested to me that it was predation by coyote, not by eagle or red-tailed hawk or whatever. So.
He don't care if he's eating the eggs or eating the chicks. He's eating.
Just eat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So philosophically, I'm not anti-coyote per se, but what I am is pro-hunter, and I want to reduce the coyote population enough so that we have a plentiful supply of deer for hunting in the northern half of the state, like we used to have.
Right.
And that's a big distinction. We can't eliminate coyotes, and we don't want to. But there is the need to hold them down to a number that allows deer to survive and to thrive and increase to some level of what the habitat can support the deer.
I mean, do the deer have any self-defense capability if they're in a yard or what have you?
Yeah,
I mean,
in deep snow, it's doubtful.
Okay.
And that's why the coyotes pretty much have the pick of it. And the same thing's true with moose. Moose and wolves get in the same problem. When the snow is 30 inches and soft in moose country and there's wolves kill moose indiscriminately, just as coyotes can kill deer indiscriminately. But have you ever been hit by a deer hoof?
Not
It'll
yet.
wake you up.
I have. A deer, like a moose, a deer can do an awful number with its hooves. And I'm sure there are times when the deer wins the battle, especially on bare ground, and a chase by coyote or multiple coyotes. In 1976, there was a logging operation in Alton, and I was stationed at the university at the time doing my work. And we were collecting those samples, like I told you. And a game warden contacted me and said, there's a big buck in this logging operation, and he's fallen through the crust, and he can't get up, and he's starving. He's just a rack of bones. So I said, let's go get him. He's going to die anyway. Let's sample him. So we walk in there on snowshoes, and there's about that much snow. And I see the deer, and I walk up to him, and I get about half the distance to Wyatt right there between me and the deer. And being inherently lazy, instead of shooting him on the spot and dragging him out, I said, I'm going to try to herd him back toward the truck.
So you don't have to carry.
So I got him off his feet, or off the cross, and he's standing there now close to me. And we're eye to eye, literally. And next thing, one of us has to move. And all of a sudden, I see this change in his eyes, and I've seen it in moose that I've had encounters with, in pen situations, and I've seen it in cattle when they panic and they decide to do something. And all of a sudden, that deer goes, boom, caught me right in the middle of the chest, and I go ass over tea kettle. On the ground, I'm flailing. The game warden had to rescue me from the deer.
How was your day today, honey?
And I told him his name was Brian Buchanan. And I said, Brian, shoot him right here. I'm done.
Messing with him, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
ungulates with cloven hooves can
They
do
can
a number on anything up close.
This is another sponsor for the program, and this is the Trading Post, and they're in Palmyra. Really, really down-to-earth Maine sporting store. They have bait, they have guns, they have a full bow and long crossbow
Workshop.
Workshop.
Yeah, they have a little bit of everything that you could possibly
reloading,
need. Mm-hmm.
Bullets, guns, ice fishing stuff.
Yeah.
They have it all, and a lot of it's made in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
So if any of you sportsmen would think about purchasing any of these things, it's a great place to go check out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And the knowledge these guys have, it's not like they have one guy working the shop. They have 4 or 5 people that all have a lot of knowledge. So if you're looking for some sporting equipment or just knowledge, go in and see them, talk to them about it, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
But that's about it. That and running into water and just running until, if the coyote's not all that interested, just.
But again, if the snow is 2 feet
but
plus,
but see, that's the problem. That's one of the problems. You run and you run and you run and you run, and you're burning calories that you're
Right.
not going to replace by eating twigs.
right.
And so if they're run too much, they go downhill and they're not going to survive.
Yeah.
I once took a reporter from the Bangor Daily News out, and I would do this about every year to a deer yard and just show them around. And this one time I had a brilliant idea. We had knee-deep snow. So I took my snowshoes off, and I had her take her snowshoes off. And I said, let's race from here to there.
Ugh.
And there we go, plunging through the snow. She was young. I wasn't so young, but I did it anyway. And within 30 yards, we were out of breath.
Oh, sure.
And it's the same thing happening with a deer that has to plunge through the snow.
But the coyotes have an advantage in deep snow. I mean, are they able to scamper on top, or
Well, they
They
have
can
big,
always
they have
run
big paws.
behind a deer.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's breaking
They don't have
trail.
to break trail.
They're a long distance. They can run. A deer is a short distance animal. He only runs little ways. It's not
Yeah.
like he can run very far.
So this brings up another little lesson. Why do deer yard up, and when do they yard up? They yard up to get to shallower snow, but what triggers it? Well, the research has shown that the height from the hoof to the first joint on a deer is on a fawn deer especially is only about 10 inches. And when you correlate that, the movement to deer yards occurs when the snow gets to 10 to 12 inches deep. Then they start moving to that cover because they don't want the next storm to put it up to their belly, the snow up to their belly. So about 10 inches is what initiates yarding movement to those deer yards. And anything more than that, you can shuffle along through powder snow and it's not too bad.
Right.
But get a little crust on that snow or a little density to it, and now the deer has to lift its foot completely out of the snow, all four of them. And that costs energy. And research has proven that they would put these, they get tame deer and put these face masks on them that monitors the carbon dioxide coming out. And,
Like
and
the
they
Olympic
can calculate
athletes
the
training.
energy that resulted from that. And they found that the cost of moving in snow goes up, not straight line, but exponentially with snow depth. And when you put a crust on that, it just gets ridiculous.
Yeah, and that crust has been a kind of a phenomenon that, you know, we've all seen. We've had these great snowstorms, and then the last hour will end up being rain.
Right. Oh,
You know, and then that freezes right there, and that would kill all of your quail and your pheasant, right? Because they're on the ground nesting, and now they can't get out. But the turkey are strong enough to get out. But that ice is really a prevalent.
yeah, roosting in there.
Yeah.
Being a snowshoe man half my life, it makes a big difference if you're walking through snow this deep or this deep.
Yep.
If you don't think so, you try it.
Right.
By the end of the day, you'll say,
You'll feel it.
I'd like to be able to stay just a little bit more on top. And this is why we developed these snowshoes to do that,
To-
to stay
I mean,
as much flotation as possible.
As Wyatt has said in the past, they're really in a given day, you can use 2, 3, 4 different sizes.
You could. Sometimes you'd want one.
Yeah. Just because of the conditions of the snow.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those poor deer don't have, maybe that's it. Maybe we need to develop a snowshoe
Here we
for
go.
deer.
I knew we were going down that path.
Maybe we should legalize snaring for coyotes again.
Oh, Christ.
So, Gerry, I mean, you've mentioned that it sounds like there's been a lot of activity at the state level to curtail the season on coyotes or to limit it more.
Oh, well, and in the legislature,
Right.
every session, well, let me put it another way. There are organizations in Maine and out of Maine, nationally, that want to see an end to all hunting.
Just hunting in general.
And every opportunity to accomplish that incrementally, they jump at it. And so if they perceive any little weakness at the administrative level in state government, they'll jump on it and put a proposed legislation together, and then have to go through the hearing process and a vote on it. And lately, under the current administration, they seem to be the antis seem to be emboldened to attack various types of coyote and other killing based sports that we hunters typically enjoy and are traditional. It's all under attack. Coyote contests. The department initially supported a reduction in the coyote season in Maine, as in 44 other states. Coyote hunting is allowed year round. No Sunday hunting, year round in daylight. And in December 16th to the end of August, you can hunt them at night. And that has come under attack because some people within state government and also outside of it, they want to make the coyote more of a game animal. And so what do you do with a game animal? You have a regulated, distinct hunting season. So they proposed, one time, they proposed coyote hunting to start in late September and end in late February. And another time they expanded that, and they wanted even less.
Wow.
And we had, through the Sportsman's Alliance, guides associations, individual hunters, we had to show up in enough numbers so that the Legislative Wildlife Committee can defeat this legislation. And so far we've succeeded, but as we go and are dominated more and more by Southern Maine and its liberal, woke philosophies, these type of things are going to come under attack even more. And it's going to be more and more difficult for us to succeed at keeping our traditional hunting methods. And this is true whether you're coyote hunting with dogs came under attack 5 years ago. Bear hunting came under attack twice,
Debating.
2004, 2014, and so on and so forth.
I mean, do they just ignore the whole conservation aspect of, hunting is highly regulated already, and it's by zone
And trapping.
and trapping. And
Yeah.
they have people, conservationists out there determining the health of a particular herd or flock, and they regulate in those zones as far as what can be taken.
In the case of coyotes, the anti-crowd believes that coyotes can self-regulate their numbers,
Oh,
and they will.
we can just ask them to be nice
Till
dogs.
they eat everything.
They will. But they'll be at this much higher a population. Self-regulation in a predator population, it occurs in wolves, it occurs in coyotes. They do it by these pack animals coming under so much social stress, and they're defending territories, fighting with each other all the time, and eventually they literally eat their own. And so you see recruitment of young pups into the population goes way down when a canine wolf or coyote population has reached its maximum carrying capacity. And so, yeah, they'll self-regulate, but we won't like the results of it. As hunters, it'd be a death knell for deer hunting.
But just based on the statistics that you've already shown, where when you harvest coyotes out of a particular area, there's the dramatic increase in deer harvest.
But they don't care.
Well, I was about to say, it's almost like, I mean, the coyotes are still killing the deer. I mean, the deer are still getting killed, right?
Some.
And the coyotes will continue to kill the deer, whether hunters are killing the deer. I mean, it's like they consider it to be more virtuous for a coyote to kill a deer than for a hunter to kill a deer.
Yes.
Until they
A
eat their dog.
resounding yes.
Until
Until they eat their
Hunters-
dog. Until they eat their cat.
You know, there's another philosophy that man has no place in that natural environment.
right,
Zero.
right.
And taken at its extreme, that's what they believe. That let nature
But
balance
the
itself
balance
without the
balance was skewed when the coyotes came here 50 years ago. I mean, that it
Yeah.
changed the whole paradigm.
It sure did.
Yeah.
It sure did.
See, they didn't move further north. Those coyotes didn't go to Canada, way up in Canada, because the wolves would have killed them. So they slid down in the eastern United States, just like a coyote will go out of his way to kill a fox. Well, the wolf will go out of his way to kill a coyote too. So they didn't, up in Ontario and that part of the country that was full of wolves. They didn't stay up there. They moved back down here because we didn't have any.
Maybe we need to bring some wolves to Maine.
I don't think we need to go down that road.
Why not? No. Are they more vicious than coyotes?
Yeah.
Around the year 2000, just prior to that, some organizations like Defenders of Wildlife actually proposed that Maine Fish and Wildlife partner with them to introduce wolves, and fortunately the department in the early 90s said no thank you.
Yeah.
But they said, but if a population of wolves migrates in on its own, then of course we'll help protect them. That was an invitation for the antis to start dumping wolves into Maine.
Just like your pike.
Like
They
the pike
did.
into the trout pond.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even then, there was among the biologist community, there was some support for introducing wolves, and one of the ideas was and one of our former commissioners, after he got done, actually wrote a proposal for that why not introduce wolves? They occupy a bigger area and they will reduce coyote number. That's like having your house infested with cockroaches and you introduce rats to kill the cockroaches. What's the bigger problem?
Right.
You know?
Right.
I was assigned in around the year 2000, I was assigned to do a study based on the literature and everything of what would possibly be the impact of having wolves in Maine compared to having coyotes. And I wrote a 100-page report on it with 300 literature citations, very thorough. One thing I noticed in the literature on wolves, there is no place where wolves are abundant and also white-tailed deer are present.
Present.
Wolves and moose, yes. Wolves and deer, no. In those parts of Ontario that have deer, they don't have wolves. In those parts of Ontario that have wolves, no deer. And so he started looking at why. Now Minnesota has wolves and deer, all right? So I started looking at that. Well, it all has to do with the amount of snow we get. Northeast Minnesota, the big woods of Minnesota, has winters that are similar to central Maine, believe it or not. Not northern Maine, central Maine. And when the occasional winter or a string of them occurs in northeast Minnesota that mimics what we have in the Moosehead Lake Plateau, the deer take it on the chin and they're down and out for 10 years and they have to be brought back. The rest of Minnesota, as you go west in Minnesota and wolves occur at lower numbers all the way west, you have even milder and milder and milder winters and snow. Cold,
Yeah.
but no snow. So snow is the factor. So you get places in Ontario where wolves have completely eliminated deer, and places in Minnesota where wolves and deer can coexist, but only where winters are typically very mild. So what would happen in northern Maine? Well, when I looked at the snow patterns for northern Maine, there are the typical northern Maine winter. And now bear in mind, I've been retired 20 years and winters have become milder, but the typical northern Maine winter featured 30-inch snowfall on the ground, 30-inch snow depth on the ground from late December to April. Usually sometime in March it starts going down. When you get 12 plus months of that much snow on the ground, the wolves that would occupy northern Maine would literally wipe out every last deer from Millinocket north. And it's not speculation, because we see it in other places where wolves and deer do or don't coexist. So if you introduce wolves, the first thing you better count on is that you're going to lose your deer, and you're going to reduce substantially the huntable moose population, because these wolves can hunt moose, and they can hunt deer, and they love hunting deer in deer yards with deep snow, because it's so easy for a wolf to do that. So over a short period of time, they're going to sustain themselves on moose, and so the wolf population won't go down, but they're going to focus on deer to the point where there are no deer left. And then the moose population would stabilize at a lower level, and the wolf population would be a little lower too. They'll occupy a bigger area. But before they do that, our deer are gone. The other thing I found in doing this study, and luckily we got legislation all across the Northeast because of it. If somebody puts wolves anywhere in Maine, especially if one of the federally protected tribes do it on their own land, they're not going to stay on their own land. These wolves will go where the food is easiest to get. And they're going to follow the entire chain of the Appalachians from Maine to Georgia. And so all of these other just as the coyote did, all of these other eastern states are going to have a wolf problem. And it's going to be conflicts. New York's not going to lose its deer, but the Adirondacks of the north of New York and the Catskills is going to have a problem with deer, with a wolf population, and so on and so forth.
Now, wolf are substantially larger than the coyotes. I mean, I think I remember a coyote is 38, 40 pounds.
Some of these wolves go 100 pounds or bigger.
Right.
Wow.
We're able to take the data from those contests, and I've got a manuscript going in the Journal of Mammalogy on our coyote weights. We've got the largest data set of coyote weights anywhere in North America right now. I've got 2,500 of them.
Wow.
So there's no question as to what they are, size-wise. Over 2,500 in that contest. They've yet to find one over 50 pounds. So there's the upper part. But would you believe you could kill a coyote in February that weighs 13 pounds? We've seen that too.
Wow.
A typical young of the year coyote will be about 22 to 25 pounds. But there are some small numbers of them that never get that size. And so we ask ourselves why. And I think what's happening is when you pound the coyote population, just as the antis predict, you'll get younger coyotes now reproducing. But younger coyotes produce fewer embryos, and I've proven that in my own studies. And they probably are coming into heat in March instead of February, having their pups in May, and they're not as experienced. And so those pups, if they survive, are way underweight.
See, they missed the deer drop
Yeah.
by being so late.
I see.
Yeah.
See? So they lost one of their major food sources.
So you hear the term citizen scientist, and the department here in Maine crows about that a lot. And that's what this is.
Yep.
Taking valid information that hunters have produced and making some sense out of it biologically to draw some conclusions about a population.
Well, Gerry,
Been great, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always,
Very educational.
always great just to hear what's going on in the woods and the implications of hunting and not hunting and introducing, and it is a complex subject,
And controversial.
and controversial.
There's a lot
emotion.
of myths about them too.
True.
People make up their own myths about coyotes and what they're really doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, I had a legislator in the committee during, committee work, call me a liar, saying I made it up. Incredible. And at that time, there were 2 antis on the Fish and Wildlife Committee, which in prior decades was unheard of. It was mostly hunters
Right.
and fishermen,
Right.
and that's who uses the resource to the greatest extent. But no, this anti actually had the temerity to say I was lying. And then one of the other committee members asked the commissioner's staff, "Is he lying?"
I mean, as if
And having worked for them for 30
For
years,
30
I'm glad they
years.
said no.
right. Yeah. I mean, it's
So that's the kind of thing. That wildlife policy is controversial now, and to the degree that it didn't used to be when I was just getting into it.
it's hard to imagine, though, in the sense that what you're really talking about is trying to balance and regulate the health of a population, in this case of deer.
Right.
And you want to maintain it for future generations, whether it's as Bob takes as many people on wildlife safaris to take pictures as he does to take them hunting. Wyatt too. And that's a huge, and there is nothing like going out into the woods and seeing, the deer past, walking up on them when they're in the deer yard and they're down on the ground and they're there in the woods. And I just don't understand how anybody could not want to maintain the balance and sustain.
Well, as an outfitter, we hunt coyotes to give my deer hunters a better chance.
Right.
Because, I don't eat money. I hire people to come and help, and then I hire helpers to make the beds, and I buy groceries, and I don't keep it. It all revolves around the whole community.
Right.
And some of the communities up north lost all their deer, and they were losing these traditional lodges all over the place.
Right.
So this is how we came to with these moose permits, is to give them a little bit of funding to make it through so we wouldn't lose so many of them.
Right.
Yeah, so
Well, it's interesting times, and the population changes. I mean, there's not as many hunters and fishermen as there were years ago.
Yeah. And our human population is more urbanized, and typically has less contact with the outdoors of any kind, than they had in the past.
Yep.
That's so evident,
We're
Jerry.
all farmers, rural towns, small towns. Not anymore.
Yep.
We take them people every day in the summertime in the wilderness, moose safaris and wildlife tours. They have no idea. It's like going to Mars.
Right.
They live in the city their whole life, and the only thing they see outdoors is the TV.
Yep.
I mean, they have a little teeny garden out back of their house, but I mean, we might go 100 miles on dirt roads in which what this tree is and what this tree and what that moss is and what's going on here, and they're just overwhelmed and overtaken by just what's really there.
How sophisticated and complex.
Oh, it's all interlinked.
Yeah.
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 Well, anyway.
But it's always an amazing thing, I'll be outside of Maine with new friends and whatnot, and I'll tell them I can go out in my backyard in winter and walk on my lake and catch a trout. and they just look at you, a trout, I said, yeah, and I'll take it up to my house and I'll smoke it and I'll have it for dinner. And I'll say, it's like completely their mind is explodes. But there's a thrill in that, and there's a thrill on even getting out and walking on a frozen lake. You know, whether you're fishing or hunt or anything like that. But Bob, it's therapeutic, but it's also to see how it all works together is so important. And Gerry, you've lived that life of seeing how it is so integrated, but hard to keep in balance.
And I actually did that from when I was 7 years old. I was in a situation where I had farmland and abandoned farmland and woods, and I was always gone, always in the woods.
All of us grew up like that.
Yeah.
That's what we did. We played in the woods.
Played in the woods.
That's it.
Yeah.
Every day.
We should all get back to it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to wrap it up for right now with Gerry. Gerry, thank you very much. We'll have you back
been my
again
pleasure.
soon.
Yeah.
We just love getting your insight as what's going on in the Maine woods. And we're thankful for what you're doing with Sam and the information you're able to provide them so they can provide, and through you, if not you directly, legislators to make intelligent, knowing votes instead of emotional votes.
It's such a value, Tim.
It is.
People just don't realize. For $25, you join Sam. What they do for you as a sportsman in this state is incredible. And if there's anybody out there that is not a member of Sam, you should be ashamed of yourself. Because you ain't coming here hunting and you ain't coming here fishing if those people weren't there fighting for you every day. And if you can't spend $25, then the heck with you.
It's really funny.
I'm telling you.
Bob, a couple years ago when we had a gubernatorial election, and the Sam has its annual banquet, both candidates at Sam, because they know how important the sportsmen in Maine, how they're going to vote, and they're trying to win them over.
Curry favor.
So anyway, Gerry, thank you so much. And with that, we'll be back with Maine Knows How in just a few minutes. Thanks.
Maine Knows How is brought to you by Modern Woodman of America, a member-owned fraternal financial services organization since 1883. And by Pine Grove Programs, supporting veterans, first responders, and law enforcement by providing free outdoor opportunities to those who serve, have served, and their families.
Welcome back to Maine Knows How. This segment will have Wyatt and his how-to. So what do you got for us?
So this month, we were talking about coyote hunting.
Yep.
And deer hunting just ended. Coyote hunting just getting started. We're setting up our shacks and our baits and getting those things together. And so I want to talk about how we like to set up those baits. Things to think about when you get ready to do it. Some people will just throw it in a pile in the backyard and expect it to work really well. And if you're not successful at it, then you're just feeding them. So some of the things we like to take account of is if you're not using like thermal or night vision, you want to think about where the moon is coming up so that you'll have more moonlight on that bait site. Another really important thing is having an avenue of approach for those coyotes to get there. They're much more likely to go and visit those bait sites if they can feel safer getting there. They're not quite as skittish.
Right.
We have some baits that are near the edge of a pond where it's very open to get there, and they seem to be a lot more skittish of smaller sounds on those baits than they are when it's like on a road and they have plenty of places they can scurry away to. So things like those kind of things to think about. Little details on how you're going to set it up and how you're going to hunt it. And so that's kind of my how-to for this.
How-to. So how would you store? I mean, you have a bait site out there, and what would the physical setup look like?
Well, we like to we'll go earlier before the ground freezes,
right?
And we'll get like a 2x2 grade stake. And we'll pound that into the ground, and then it will freeze there. So you'll have this solid spike. And then if you have deer rib cages or things like that, you can put it over that spike so they can't carry it away.
I see.
If you have smaller parts, you'll have little buckets or barrels that don't have anything, no coverings, and we'll fill it with parts, and then we'll fill it with water and freeze it. And so you're trying to make sure that those animals can't carry all your
Right.
bait away and eat it somewhere else. You want them to be on that bait site.
Right.
And then it's also important if you have those larger pieces to cover it up with snow or something to keep the crows and hawks and eagles from eating it all. Because they'll come in, they'll pick all the ice out, and then it will melt in the sun.
Sure.
And then the coyotes will carry it all away. So the longer you can keep it frozen, keep the birds away from it, the better.
Okay. Well, that's great. I mean, it's as we've heard, the importance of really keeping that. I don't know, what do you call it? A herd or
A bunch of coyotes coming to
bun-
that bait.
yeah. I mean, we just got to keep them under control because otherwise, the deer hunt just goes down the tube and we lose our balance. So
Yeah, it's a fun way to make a difference in the deer population.
absolutely,
It's something to do in the winter.
Yeah,
it's right.
You know,
Exactly.
I mean, you need
So-
what to do, and
Yeah.
so that's my how-to for this month. And I'm going to turn it over to my dad for a story. And
yeah, I have a story, but
yeah, do you?
I do. But you know, I have friends that have some really good stories, and I think you guys should be fortunate enough to hear this story. So I'm going to bring Gerry back to
Okay.
share one of his stories, because I can tell you a story, but this is quite unique, and we've talked about coyotes, and I think you might enjoy this. So Gerry, come on over here a minute. You can,
Encore performance,
yeah,
unheard of.
yeah.
Walk this way.
That's it, huh? Well, we're glad you're back.
Good.
Round two.
Now, this is a story with a lesson,
Okay.
so all the better. And I wrote about this experience in the Sam News, and the title of the story was I lost or just turned around? And I'll let the audience decide at the end. All right. One of the places I hunt is called the Boneyard, and it's a place where butcher scraps are put, and I cleared the woods into a semicircle, about a third of an acre, and kept the woods, but no understory. I got a shack. There's a road on one side, a road on another side, and another tote road on a third side, about half a mile apart. All right? Can't get lost in that, right? Well,
At night.
on the back side, it's 4 miles to the next road.
Oh, only three-sided.
Right? All right. It's April, and there's a moon out, and the moon's important. There's no snow on the ground except a little bit of patch here and there, a little bit of ice. And the woods surrounding the boneyard are real thick, thickets, blowdowns, the whole works. Early on, like an hour after dark, a coyote comes in, and I shoot it, and it runs off. I know I hit it, and I'm confident I killed it. So, and I'm one who, when he hunts coyotes, I can't just sit and wait for another coyote to come in.
You got to go
like I
see.
should.
Yeah.
I got to get up and I got to go look at
Just
it.
like it was
All right?
Christmas.
Yeah. So I went out. I had just me, a small light, and no compass.
Mm.
All right, and I start walking in the woods. Now, what do you do when you've got an animal down? You start making circles.
Oh
right?
yeah.
So I started making circles around where that coyote went into the woods from the boneyard, and I didn't find it. So I said, I got to get back to the boneyard, and I'll start again. So I went in, and this time I went a little further, and I went around and around and around. And I said, I better get back to the boneyard. And then I thought, where the heck's the boneyard? And I
That's when you wish there was a foot of snow on the ground because you
Right,
could have
no tracks. But Daniel Boone here is going to use the moon to orient by.
Oh,
All right. So I put the moon on my, on my left shoulder. And no, I put it on my right shoulder. And I started walking. And it should only be like 40 yards and I'm on the main road. So I'm walking, and I'm walking, and I'm walking, and I'm walking. No road. So what the heck? And no boneyard.
Yeah.
So now I get even smarter. I'm hearing a coyote howling, and I surmise that it's the mate from the one I shot.
Oh, yeah.
Bear in mind, it's April, all right? So mated pairs. So I start walking toward the howling coyote.
oh, that's what I would do.
Because that coyote knows where the boneyard is, and he's there, all right? Because that's where his mate is, somewhere near there. So I start walking toward the coyote, and I'm walking and walking and walking, and it's kind of nice. It was moonlight,
Yeah.
and you got the woods, and you get out of that, and there's some, you know how they do when they log, they make that herringbone pattern, all right? You got all these little trail after trail.
Yeah.
It was that kind of place. And I walked to the point where the coyote stops howling.
Yeah.
I got close enough to the coyote that he stopped howling, but he was nowhere near the boneyard.
No.
So I said, you know, now it's been close to an hour, and I pull out my phone. I don't have it on me, but I've got these high-tech flip phones.
Oh, those are
right.
new ones out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And luckily, there are places there that don't
1978.
have bars,
You had
but
one
this
bar.
time it did.
One bar.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I called my wife. I sat down. I said, I'm not moving anymore. I called my wife. And I said, don't panic, but I'm a little twisted around. Do me a favor. Go out to the end of the driveway and tell me where the moon is in relation to the driveway. And she tells me, comes back in and tells me. I said, damn, I had the moon on the wrong shoulder. So now I'm angling away from the road. I know that now. So I said, okay, I'm going to call Jason, my son-in-law. Now, he worked a job where he had to get up early in the morning, and this is now 9 o'clock at night. I get him out of bed. I said, Jason, I'm in a fix. Can you drive down and toot your horn at the boneyard? All right. So he lives in Brownville, so he drives almost 20 miles.
Oh my
to
God.
the range.
Yeah.
And by and by, I hear this horn sounding, but it couldn't be Jason because it's too far
Just
away.
too far.
Yeah.
I could barely hear it, so I called
But
him up.
cars in Maine at 9 o'clock at night always just spontaneous toot their horns.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, a train goes through there.
You're right.
Oh, okay.
And if a train would go through, I'd know where I was. But anyway, I called Jason up, and I said, "Was that you tooting?" He said, "Who the hell do you think it was?" I said, "All right, first thing, from where you're standing, tell me where the moon is." So I just wanted to verify that I was wrong. So he told me, and I was wrong. I used the moon wrong. So I said, "Lay on your horn, don't stop." and I started headed, and it was in a direction, a completely different direction than I envisioned it was.
Yep.
Completely different.
Wow.
And I was going, boneyard's here. I was going this way,
Away.
away,
Yeah.
away from all the roads.
Yeah.
And so by and by, I got right up, and I came right out to the boneyard.
You were
And-
glad to see the boneyard.
And you know, thank you. You won't tell anybody about that.
Right. Yeah.
He said, "Oh yeah."
Everybody's going to know about
He's
this.
real good on Facebook and
Yeah.
stuff. So there was that, and I get home and I told my wife, I wasn't lost. I just turned around. She said, "No, you were lost."
Yeah.
To this day, I'm convinced I was just turned around because, and here's the lesson. Well, one lesson: you're only lost if you have to call the game warden to get you out of the woods.
Oh, but because you called your wife and your son-in-law.
Yeah, that's all right.
No problem.
All right.
Well, I've never been lost.
Yep.
And guess what? I wear a compass now.
Yeah.
Every coyote hunting excursion at the boneyard.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
here's my story.
Yeah,
You got it.
No, and that's the truth. I mean, a basic safety component. What a silly little
Yeah.
compass.
Who knew I would need a compass when the shack is only 30 yards from your access road?
Right, right. But now most people who don't have flip phones, who have regular real phones, they have compasses built right into them.
I call those hand computers.
Okay.
And I have a PC, so I don't want two computers.
Well, good story, Jerry.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you for sharing.
that. Wow.
Sure, Bob, you've never been lost in the woods.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Did you have to call a warden?
No, but I had to
So you
say
weren't lost.
no, but we had a guy shoot at a bear, and I started tracking this, and then son of a biscuit, I better go back and start running a ribbon. Oh, I didn't know where back was no more. At night with a flashlight, and you can lose that bucket so fast,
Yep.
and then you don't know, you miss it, you just keep wandering around. So
Well,
so now I always leave my hunter at the bucket, never leave there. And I put it on I have it on my ox hunt, and
my daughter she took a shot at a deer. Sure, she hit it. No, she hit it, and they were tracking it for hours. But it's usually towards the end of the day, or if it's not first thing in the morning, that you get your deer. But yeah, you're not following when you see the blood. You're following the blood, not necessarily doing the disciplined circles.
Yeah, right.
And it's so easy to get disoriented out there.
Oh, just a quick add-on. I did retrieve that coyote.
you found him.
Oh,
The next day, I went to the boneyard. The boneyard's got scores, 50, 60 ravens on it when there's it's a butcher pile,
Yeah.
and eagles. And there was some on there when I drove in, but then I could hear off to the west, I could hear another set of birds.
Yeah.
And so I made a beeline for that. There's my coyote.
Yeah. Son of a gun. Yeah.
I got it.
You got it. Yeah. Good. Excellent, huh? Well, thanks.
well, Bob, you got out of this cheap this.
No,
this
that was a
month.
good story to
That
share
was- it
with
was
folks.
it. That's right. It's all good.
I'm hope that story might save you from the same
Right.
thing. That is experienced woodman can get messed up, or maybe not.
Yep.
It's up to them.
If they'll admit it or not.
Right.
Yeah, so, well, that's it for Maine Knows How. We appreciate you tuning in this month, and we'll be back next month with a new episode. Thanks.
Maine Knows How is made possible by you and by these community-minded sponsors. Modern Woodman of America, a member-owned fraternal financial services organization. Together with our members, we've been touching lives and securing futures since 1883. True Enterprises, a local solar installation team with over a decade of experience delivering custom energy solutions across Maine. Sebasticook Valley Federal Credit Union, supporting our local community with valuable services, a friendly atmosphere, and caring employees. J.W. Parks Golf Course, a 9-hole facility with a full-service golf shop and driving range. Pine Grove Programs, supporting veterans, first responders, and law enforcement by providing free outdoor opportunities for those who serve and their families. Moosehead Trail Trading Post, offering quality hunting and fishing gear with expert advice for your budget and outdoor needs. And by Digital Spirit Media, delivering over 30 years of technical expertise in media and event production. Maine Knows How.